Hi everyone, welcome back to Zoho Live. In today's episode, we are going to talk to Moiz Sitabkhan. Moiz is a tech enthusiast and an e-commerce expert who is also the CEO of Conceptualize, a digital agency which can help implement software applications, come up with innovative marketing strategies and data analytics services, along with strategizing e-commerce development for all growing businesses. Thank you so much for joining us here, Moiz.
It's a pleasure. Vanity, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, I think, and it's such a pleasure to talk to you, Moise. In fact, I want to pull up a conversation from one of our initial email discussions that you had shared with me, with your permission. I want to read it out to the readers for the kind of cue it gave me to go about with the questions that we would be discussing today. So here you go. I read it out. 2020 has brought about an immediate need that had catapulted hundreds of thousands of businesses to adopt e-commerce as a medium. Super important to remember, it's not just a medium, a need of the heart which required people to get on with whatever they could. So it's like starting a car and putting it in first gear. Then the car will accelerate. Those who were already up to speed are going to move even faster and will become the benchmark for those who have just started. I cannot agree anymore to what you've said, Moise. And for that reason, let's start with some of the stats. It is said that around 2.25 billion people around the globe shop online. Nearly 150 million new shoppers have come online during the pandemic. New shoppers. There was a 40% increase in e-commerce in the USA and a 44% in one of the biggest democracies, India. What does this mean for the sellers, especially in a post-pandemic era, Moise?
So let's start with the fact that adversity brings opportunity. And I think we all have experienced adversity. And as part of that, the opportunity that came around it is that it catapulted this particular channel of how people started selling online. With the fact that there were lockdowns all around the world, I think it was quite obvious that having the opportunity to sell online became the best way to go about. So your stats are perfect in terms of numbers, in terms of a rise of 45%, right? But that's not a global stat. It's, of course, varies based on industry, culture, location. And I think the opportunity still exists to make it better.
Right.
So
Here.
if we think about it, I call it that there are two kinds of people who do e-commerce. Those who do it for the real money and those who do it for the recreational money. So what that means is if you're selling online and if you're doing it for the recreational money, it means at the end of the year, you probably make enough money as net profit that you'll be able to afford a vacation. That's your recreational money.
Right.
The real money is when you're actually doing it as a business, you're able to survive on it.
Right. Right.
That becomes your actual income.
Right.
So the change that came around in the world that bought this has catapulted the industries and businesses to adopt e-commerce as a channel, but there's still a lot of opportunity for the real money.
Got it. And I agree, Moise, because the 40% or the 44% number was not the total number of people who buy online. It is just the increase in percentage because of the pandemic. But I myself was actually alarmed when I found out that only about 20% of the retailers are even selling online. And because it feels like we are all buying stuff online all the time. But even then, I see that more than half of the businesses don't even have a website to begin with. And I mean, can you give us a
That's so
light
sad.
on, yeah. And what is stopping them? Like, what's happening? Because to people like us, it seems like we could just about buy anything online, and it seems like we cannot further with things in online not opening up for us. But if only less than 50% of the business even have a website, doesn't make sense. What's happening?
I think in the digital age today, not having a website actually signifies as if you've if you have a great business, if you have great products, and let's imagine you have the best store, I mean, the best store, decorated amazingly from the inside, but you've just put the shutters down and locked your door. That's like not having a website in a digital age today. Nobody knows about what you're selling, and nobody can access it. E-commerce is not the only way you can sell your products, right?
Right.
Having a website means that there's a whole different way of strategy in terms of how you can be marketing and generating business online.
Mm-hmm.
When you're actually selling online, I usually tell people that e-commerce means you're completing the transaction online electronically, right? So that is considered e-commerce. Generating an inquiry for a product sale is not e-commerce. Now, coming back to your website, what stops businesses from doing this? I guess number one, businesses don't know what to do. Number two, they don't know what it will cost, the actual cost of how to run a business, as well as number three, I think having a driver that pushes them to do things is very important.
Right, right. And while we're still on the topic of website, we all know that it's like the entrance door to e-commerce. If you want to get on e-commerce, that's like the first step for you. You did talk a bit about the importance of having a website. Can you also tell me what, according to your opinion, is a good website?
What, according to me, is a good website? A website that generates business is a good website.
Of course.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. What kind of website then generates a good business, may I ask?
So let's take an example. A lot of people talk about good websites in terms of creative websites. So like having a creative website is considered as a good website, but that's not true. I think a website that converts is considered good. Having creative looking websites with a user journey that helps finish a conversion is also very good. But that's not the only thing. So I think I'll give you a great example. Do you find Craigslist as a good website? Is that a good website? Probably not. It's just blue and white at the end of the day. It was one of the most popular classified that converted a maximum audience. One of the one of the most popular companies on the planet, which is Hershab, I think the one that Warren Buffett runs. Have you ever seen their website?
No.
I'm sure after this call, you're going to try to Google that, and you're going to find it was made in the 1990s and still sits the way it is. That doesn't stop the company from making money. So I think the simple answer to that is you need to analyze your target audience. What is it that your target audience requires? What is it that you're selling, the industry that you're in, and then build something that is relevant to the industry and that target audience that helps you convert.
Got it. And let's assume that they have built something that their target audience is looking to buy from them. Even in that case, website conversion seems to be just 1%. As in, on an average, it's just 1% of a website traffic that converts for a business. Maximum 2% of the traffic converts. So, and I think most of it is due to the impersonality of the internet itself. Unlike in a real shop, a physical shop where you walk in and there's people seeing you, they can even profile you and they see which products you look up for and then why you left, and all of those things can be actually seen, and this understanding sinks in over a period of time. But it does not happen in a website because of the impersonality of the internet itself. So how can businesses help to improve their website conversion?
All right. So 1 to 2% of traffic conversion, not entirely true for everybody. Yes, marketplaces would have that, or large traffic websites would have that. Imagine someone who's a real niche, who's trying to sell a very niche kind of product online. If the audience is already educated about what they're buying, your conversion rate is much higher than your traffic. So let's bring up one slide that's very interesting that we have over here.
Oh, sure.
So this comes all over the internet all the time, right? So it says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This was a definition given by Albert Einstein. Um, so if you want to convert better, you need to do something different. Change is the only thing constant, right? It's an
Right.
interesting saying, change is constant, but you need to adapt, you need to change.
Right.
And one of the biggest things that plays an important role, especially in e-commerce, is to have good analytics in place that helps you analyze and change. Your decisions have to be driven by change. So when you compare something that happens in a physical store where people walk in and you're able to convert them, it's as good as saying if I had great analytics and I was able to analyze where my user came from, what they saw, which pages did they go through, where did they drop off, all of these will help you better optimize your conversion cycle.
I agree. I agree, and it's actually a very important point, Mice. But what comes to my mind immediately after hearing that is the websites that I have ever seen change are only the websites of big brands. You know, they probably
Okay.
change their website. Even it could be a minute change, probably a content is changed or an image is changed or some notification or banner is coming up, like let's say once in 2 months or something like that. But for a small business, I almost never see this happen. I mean, how much can you stress the importance of having to implement? You cannot expect to have a perfect website in place right at the start, right? You'll have to keep changing it continuously, but I almost don't see that happen with SMBs. Is that the same? Like, do you share that sentiment, or what's your view on that?
See, this is exactly the reason why uh, businesses find it difficult, because it is a full-time job. E-commerce is not something that you can just have done once and let go of it. It requires work, it requires content generation, it requires optimization using your technology. It needs an ecosystem. So another interesting slide that highlights how much work goes into actually running an e-commerce site, uh, that's what I'd like to highlight over here.
Yeah. Uh, can we bring that slide up while we're still on the discussion? And yes, I was also going to ask you, like, does a person have to be digitally savvy or tech savvy if he goes online? And I mean, we discussed about website, but apart from website, what are the other things, other applications that he needs to focus on when he's thinking about bringing his business online?
Perfect. So let's quickly go through this first. Why do small businesses not change their website too often? This is the sort of things that you need to concentrate on when you're actually trying to run a business online. Another thing I like to tell people is that e-commerce is not an industry. Uh, e-commerce is not a business. Business is business. E-commerce is a channel. It's one of those many channels that you can implement in your business, uh, which actually bring you your revenue. So
Right.
whether you are a brick and mortar store and you want to start selling online, e-commerce is another channel. Doesn't mean brick and mortar doesn't work. It may have reduced in sales. But when you start selling online, it's not about just your website. It's about all these bubbles that you see over here.
Right.
You got to
Right.
concentrate on your vendors. You got to concentrate on your finance and accounting. The bigger the size of the bubble on the screen, that's where you need to pay more attention.
Right.
So it's not just about technology. Yes, it is a large bubble, but I think marketing and research and customer service are two really important factors that get missed out.
Got it.
And if you look at this, I think this is where it gets overwhelming for SMEs, uh, because they need to do all this to start competing. Someone who's doing this, uh, all of these are actually getting consistent sales. So if you compare this with the large enterprises, yes, they do this and a lot more.
Right.
But these are the basic minimum that need to happen.
Right.
And of
And
course, you need tools. You need tools to actually manage this.
yeah.
So let's take Zoho, for example, an amazing set of tools. that if combined properly, that it can actually run your online business very effectively. As a
Entirely
company,
so. Yeah.
yeah, as a company, what we've done is we've done projects where we've implemented a variety of tools of Zoho, starting with the first and foremost thing that we start advising anyone is that you got to have your inventory and accounting in place first. I think inventory management, having the ability to manage your stock, pricing, all of this is one of the most critical parts. All of these are actually operational tools that it's not necessary that you need to have these in place only for e-commerce. I mean, if you're not doing this even for your regular business, there's something wrong over there. So,
Right.
having these tools in place, um, and then enhancing those tools in an online space makes more sense. So maybe for your regular business, you don't maintain a full-fledged CRM, but then having a CRM and then having that combined with email marketing, talking to your social media platforms, connected to your advertising
Accounting.
platforms and accounting makes total sense.
Got
So I
it.
think the operational end of running an e-commerce store uh, brings about a lot of change in terms of what you can make and what you can't make. So those who feel that it's not working from them, I think need to concentrate a little more on whether their operations are in place or not.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. And let's talk a bit about branding also, Mice. So, with more and more brands coming online, brand building gets even more challenging. Like, it's
True.
no longer enough to just have a transactional site which lists all the products or services. So,
Yeah.
how to establish branding and personalization and take care of customer care actually when running a business online? I mean, I saw customer care was may not be the
Probably
biggest
second
around,
largest.
but yeah, decently big enough.
There was an interesting story that when a large e-commerce store CEO was asked, "What do you actually do?" Uh, he said, "I sit and take calls of customer service because that's where I find out where we are lacking."
Right.
And so, yes, branding is definitely a very large topic in itself. And I think establishing a brand in the minds of consumers means one of the largest factors that affect it is how you provide customer service. Um, the consumer is already used to a certain way of how e-commerce is supposed to react to you. Consumers are very uh, comfortable, or at least trained to the fact that shipping has to be free if I order a certain value, right?
Yeah, high expectations, yes.
So, yes, the consumer has very high expectations. And I guess this is again where strategy and planning for a business comes into effect of how you price your products. So factor all these things in. But if you don't offer these things, I think that's where your brand building gets affected. So, number one, you at least have to provide everything that the consumer expects.
Right,
But then you start getting memorable as a brand when you start providing more than expectations.
right. Beautiful. That's well put.
So that combined with great customer service, because trust me, one of the worst things that consumers hate about e-commerce is the fact that after making a payment, if I don't get a quick reply. So
Right.
I mean, a lot of times we've noticed that buying is very easy, returns are a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
and we naturally do like the brands which make return as smooth as possible.
and see that contributes towards the brand. You'll remember and you'll have a memory hook about those brands compared to the ones that don't provide that level of customer service.
True, true. I agree. And even in Zoho, just because you spoke about the business owner who started taking calls. Since product marketing is like a bridge between product management and the end customer itself, every marketer is made to sit and take calls, take all the support calls, and go through all the support emails during the start of their training as a marketer. And even after they have become a marketer, they are mandatorily made to read all the customer support tickets. So I 100% agree with what you said.
I just
Thank you,
hope
Moiz.
everyone else adopts it.
Yeah, it's the first hand reply. Even when somebody is telling you that this is what the customer is expecting, maybe this feature has to be given, I hear this from them, that from them. I mean, nothing will be as equal as you yourself reading what the customer has said in his own words and in his own emotions. So that's actually a game changer. Yes. And from there, let's talk about this really very important thing, Moise, online ads and keeping recurring businesses, because we've seen how only like 1 or maximum like 5% of your website traffic will convert, depending upon the niche business or whichever vertical in which online is actually quite relevant as a platform. But digital ads are becoming more and more costly, like they're becoming costlier than banner ads and physical ads. So as the customer acquisition cost increases, recurring business does become an important thing for any business to hold on to. So what are the ways to build brand loyalty? Because it's brand loyalty that can keep the existing business intact.
True.
So, I mean, what are the ways to do that?
A lot of this comes back to, as a business, what is your strategy in terms of retaining a customer? Um, and this is, no way concerned with just e-commerce. Uh, Retention of a customer in a normal business environment has a lot to do about how well you can keep them engaged, how well can you keep them informed, and how well can you offer them more than what you're selling. Everyone likes a discount at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's one of the highest. It's a world phenomenon in terms of how you can attract someone to buy something.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a very interesting thing that, as a theory, it says we don't buy what we need, we buy what we want.
True.
And it's a very interesting thin line between need and want,
Yeah.
because wants can actually be triggered. So that's how I guess strategy comes into play. If you want to build loyalty, number one, again, comes round to the fact that customer service is very important. Uh, Keeping your existing customers engaged and informed is equally important. Uh, and giving them a benefit, and telling them why you should be buying from me rather than someone else, um, that needs to be also thought through.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Over the entire, I think, business world, the the theory of why has always been very popular. It's not about how and what you sell, it's why you sell it.
Right.
So
Right.
digital ads are expensive. Um, there are ways, I guess, in terms of how you can navigate that as well. If you're smart, if you know your audience, if you have done your research, if you've targeted accurately, and if you have compelling content that actually resonates with your client, um, I think marketing online is not considered expensive. But you mentioned cost of acquisition is increasing day by day. I guess people are noticing that now because of the fact that there is a huge supply available online.
Yeah, yeah. We're all spoiled for choice. And I, for one, definitely don't buy because I need something. I buy what the algorithm of the internet wants me to buy. So, totally agree with what you said there. And definitely do focus on marketing, even if it's small things like changing the content and listening to your customers. Do all of those things to keep them intact.
Another
So,
reason,
mhm.
sorry, another reason why I think it gets overwhelming for a small business, an SME, to start selling online is because this is just another one of those expenses that they need to factor in. At some point of time, I think there have been a lot of conversations, especially in this last 1 year, where we've had numerous discussions with SMEs. Um, should we be selling on our own website, or should we be selling on marketplaces, right?
True.
And interestingly, there have been a lot of analysis done for small businesses where they do find it more profitable to use market spaces when they actually get down to the business plan and they chalk in all the costs involved in running your own store, and then suddenly the percentage taken by marketplaces doesn't seem very expensive.
Okay.
But
I see.
there are pros and cons to it all.
Mm.
You don't get access to customer data, so you're losing out a huge in volume of data that you could be collecting and then optimizing your product itself.
True.
So a lot of pros and cons on both sides, but I guess businesses need to evaluate what's eventually profitable for them.
Yeah. To put that into perspective, Moise, let's divide this segment into, like, say, very small retail, like a Kirana store, and then
Okay.
like take a decent enough brand like a Nike. Like, people would know the brand by the name itself. So
Okay.
if I want to buy a Nike product or even a Puma product, I still go on to the big tech players, right? The marketplace like Amazon.
Sure.
Because I want to buy some 10 or 12 such things. So if it can be a challenge for even these big brands to compete with the marketplace, I mean, I'm using the word loosely, I know, to compete with the marketplace, let's just say, by having their own website, how difficult do you think it's going to be for the Kirana store guys? So in that case, should we disencourage them from putting up a website and going online, and just maybe focus on putting your product on the marketplace, because there is also cost involved that we spoke about, which we will
Yes.
talk about extensively also. So what is your perspective there?
Let's take a real world example and a apples to apple comparison, all right? And let's make it local because we're in Dubai. So let's take an example of Carrefour, a very large, supermarket chain. Uh, and Carrefour has done an excellent job. Marshall Futem, as a company, has invested a lot of um, monetary value in making sure that their digital and sales is um, at par with what is expected. And if you actually look at the story of what Carrefour has done, you can actually understand the investment that has gone in it.
Mm-hmm.
They're creating an omni-channel approach in terms of how e-commerce works. Again, like I mentioned, e-commerce is not just something that's sold through a website. An omni-channel approach takes into consideration what happens on your app, what happens at the POS terminal, what happens on an IVR. All of these are electronic mediums of sales. A large a large retailer has the capacity to invest in this, and hence will see a very different result. And let's compare that with a small SMB business, someone who is in a niche. Let's take organicandreal.com, which is a complete online business which is into organic products for grocery. So they've created a niche. They've created something that's unique. Their value proposition over here is that we're selling something which is different, a set of products that's not available in a complete open market solution. And I guess that's what's giving them the edge and advantage of standing out. So
Right.
if you had to compare that Kirana store with a large company, I think everyone does need to find something which is unique.
Right.
And if you can find that, even if that means it's not your product, but the way you sell, the way you talk, the way you deliver, the way you accept your returns, anything, there has to be this unique proposition that attracts your target audience to you, and that says, hey, I'd rather buy from this place than a large retailer because I just know that I need this one particular thing that uh, I'm assured of that I will get.
Sure. Sure. Got it. Because
So
I mean, That definitely gives a good perspective, Moiz, because you started off with saying that selling on Amazon, a marketplace does, in terms of net revenue, it does make a lot of sense. But then again, if you can afford the cost and all the effort that go into putting in an online infrastructure with the team and all of that, then an omni-channel approach might work. But if you cannot do that, then if you can differentiate your business in terms of a specialized product or a service that only you can offer, and in the way that you can offer, then in the sense, yes, by all means, please do go ahead and create your own tech infrastructure, you said.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense, because even in the marketplaces, we continuously see the brands themselves coming up with their own products and services, right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there is going to be a competition there. And considering all the play of algorithm and all of that, that's going to be a huge competition. So maybe it would be a right time to differentiate yourself in the best possible way that you can, and slowly start building out your tech infrastructure, right?
So let's try to bring up one more slide
Mm-hmm.
that talks about what it actually takes to make that game-changing effort. And I think if you were an SME and you were seeing this particular slide, um, this is where it would make a little bit of a difference in your approach.
Can we
So,
have the slide up, team?
yep.
Yeah. While that is going to come,
Yep.
we were slightly touching upon the cost of things also. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because no, right from putting up a website to setting up campaigns, and to have the kind of people with an expertise to do all the campaigns and selling online, traditional retailers will definitely find this switch a little bit hard, right? So,
True.
how do you help your businesses who may have faced this problem address the situation in terms of cost and in terms of having the right skill or talent?
Sure. Um, I think Shopify is one of the world's largest platforms when it comes to setting up your e-commerce shop online.
Mm-hmm.
This makes it like really easy for SMEs to start, going online on a hosted solution. Again, very important to understand what you're getting into. Shopify is a hosted solution. You don't actually have access to its backend code and data that helps you then optimize your behavior. So the second thing that comes to mind is that if I don't want to use a hosted solution, I need to build something of my own, which means I have more control over my infrastructure. I have more control over my technology, and I can keep scaling up the way I like. And I don't have a dependency on any third-party company. That, of course, is more costlier than using a hosted solution, right?
Right.
And then that bucket of what you want to do can be any number, from anything as small as a 4-digit to anything as large as a 6-digit investment that you want to make. Technology will keep evolving, and as it keeps evolving, I think you need to keep adopting that technology, so that it's going to be an ongoing recurring cost when it comes to having your own infrastructure and own website. Now combine this with everything that you need to do in terms of marketing, which means you need to have uh, graphics and assets in place. You need to have good photography for your products. You need to create video content. You need to be on social media. You need to even concentrate on your search engine optimization. You need to send out consistent email campaigns. Um, you also need to have tracking enabled and analytics in place that then trigger marketing. So it means you need to do remarketing. You also need to spend on discovery of marketing. And I guess by now everybody's going like, do I really want to do this? No, but yes, this is what it takes, and it does cost a lot.
Right.
I
And
always tell businesses to
sorry, go
determine
ahead.
determine how much it's going to cost. You need to start asking yourself, what is it that I want to make? So when you start putting that into perspective, it brings about a very easy conversation in doing a reverse calculation. If a business says, I need to make X amount, I think the right answer to how much you need to spend is I need to spend the same amount of what I need to make at least in a year. Any business that breaks even on its investment in 12, 18 months is going to be amazing. Investors are going to be pretty happy about it, right? You broke even in your investment in 12 months. So if you did that, I think that gives you the ability to understand how much it's going to cost. You need to ask yourself, what is it that I need to make?
Right,
now, this
right.
slide that you're seeing over here, the gray dots that you see over here, that's pretty much everything that an e-commerce website needs to do, which is a generic thing expected. You need to have a website, you need to have products, you need to have catalog, you need to have search. I need a cart section, I need discounts and vouchers, I need a checkout, I need credit card payments, I need history. I need to be able to edit my address. I need to see tracking of where my products are. That's the gray dots. So those are expected. And then comes the quick wins. So the quick wins is where you can start attracting customers to have these very quick kind of success stories. So if you just implemented free shipping, or if you started creating digital content out there and attracting people, and if you started an omni-channel approach, that would be amazing.
Got it.
I think the slide just went away, but the game changers would be chatbots, a mobile-first approach, algorithmic-driven supply chain management. E-commerce is actually all about supply chain, by the way.
Right.
And then you've got the big ones. So if you want to hit the big, the highway, like we call it, that's when you started implementing business intelligence and CRM solutions that automate your business.
Right. Right. And thanks so much for that, Moiz. But at this juncture, I also want to ask, if I am somebody who's watching this interview and I'm one of those more than 50% of the businesses who does not have a website, but I want to now go online. I've created a website. How do I let my customers discover me online?
Well, how do you get discovered online? I think we should call Google for that, but
I mean, social media. Okay, I mean, you must have no.
There is always a strategy and plan for a launch, right? Having a strategy in terms of what you're going to do to launch yourself is, I think, the first thing that needs to be taken into consideration.
Perfect.
So it involves everything from planning a great campaign, whether it's on social or offline. I don't know. I mean, it depends on your industry and target audience. And making sure that you have the relevant content that is getting indexed in search engines, and you're actually marketing on specific keywords, whether that is through social or search, using remarketing to put your offers up there. So I think marketing is a whole different topic.
Yeah, got it. But the plain and simple answer is, don't just have a website and silently make it sit there. Do have a launch plan and foresee or envision how are you going to go about it. Make it a whole campaign, and then you will be able to see people come online. Thanks for that. And another interesting and a very nice aspect to this whole people discovering online purchases and people discovering online selling because of COVID or through COVID is that a lot of elderly population is now catching up with the whole internet of things. They've started buying things, as in my mother keeps coming up recently with all the best offers of all the best utensils and all of that online. But it kind of stops there. She tells me this offer is going on in this website for this product, but then she does not go around to complete the purchase.
That's true.
Yeah, how do you think businesses or brands who already ace the online game can capitalize this whole population that's new to the internet side of things?
I'm going to answer this with two examples. All right. So yes, there is an entire population that has reached a certain age which find it very difficult to adapt to the change that's happening, and they depend on the younger population to actually complete the transaction for them. I think that will continue. That's not going to change. Brands trying to emphasize that they can make it easy for them, it may not work. It will require a lot of education and a lot of investment, which I think at this point of time, brands are not willing to spend on, because there is an alternative and it's working for them. Apart from that, it doesn't mean that everyone is not able to complete the transaction. I have a uncle who's 60 plus, who pretty much is tech savvy enough, who is able to complete things on his mobile app much easily than his 20-year-old daughter can. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about how tech savvy you are, how connected you are. But then coming back to that point about how is it serving the elderly, I think this has created a huge opportunity. E-commerce has created a huge opportunity to help people in need who are also of a particular age. And a great example of that is what my wife does. She actually is in Dubai right now, placing an order for groceries for her parents living back in India.
Beautiful.
Who um, don't know how to do this online, and due to the lockdown and the current situation in India, they can't go out to buy. But the fact that e-commerce is beyond borders, it just helps someone else complete the transaction from anywhere in the world where the product's actually delivered to a different part of the world. So you see, this is an opportunity which can really be capitalized on, where if even SMBs start thinking that we don't need to restrict ourselves to a certain geographical area, that can open up a whole new window to even serving the elderly.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yes, like you said, for the elderly people to complete the payment on their own instead of just stopping with the discovery of things. Maybe some of the brands could even take up on them to do some of the educational content, because video is going viral and a lot of content is being consumed by the elderly population as well, particularly recently. So if somebody could come up with that, that would be great too. So with that said, my next question is, all said and done, nothing replaces the physical store experience. People still prefer to try on a bunch of clothes or apparels before they buy one. But in light of the pandemic, coupled with the boom of technology, how contactless can purchase experience become, and how soon can we expect those technologies?
Again, I think the world's got trained towards buying online. So going back to the physical world and experiencing the physical store, for many industries would still be very useful. Fashion, as an example, would still be useful. Again, fashion has always been one of the most popular categories online for sales. Yet people do prefer the physical stores, like you mentioned, to try things out. But then there are so many other things that I think the world has now gotten used to buying online. Groceries, for example, is something that will probably be avoided. I mean, I hate standing in the queue at the checkout of a grocery store. Imagine if I can order it online for life, because at the end of the day, I am getting a particular product, which is a brand, which I know is going to be the same no matter where I am. So I think your question in terms of how easy is it going to be to get back to the physical store, is that what you're saying?
No, I mean more like completely contactless. I mean, there
Completely
were
contactless.
talks about drone deliveries, and we are expecting these things to come about, but we haven't really seen those things. Like, even if you go to a physical store, what if you don't have to stand in the counter, see a person, and have that kind of a closing transaction with them? Instead of that, you just are able to swipe your card and finish the purchase, or maybe even stuff like these days I'm able to, if I want to buy a specs, I'm able to try it at my home, and if I want to buy a lipstick, I'm still able to put on that shade on me through VR and AR technologies. So those kind of things, I mean,
That
how fast will they
definitely,
pick up?
the innovation is always happening, and like I said, innovation is constantly in work. Everything that you actually mentioned is something that's already being done. So
Right.
Amazon has created contactless stores where you don't have a cashier. You simply walk out and it charges your card. We have seen stores that allow you to use your existing webcam to artificially overlay sunglasses on your eye, and changing the color of your lips with AR is very easy. I mean,
Yeah.
all of these are things that are already being done, and these are enhancements to the experience. So I think user experience plays a very important role when you're trying to sell online, because you don't have eyes on who's actually looking at your products. In a physical store, when you walk in, it's quite possible that a salesperson actually tailors their speech and the way they talk to you based on who's walked in.
Right.
But in an online store, you don't have that opportunity. The only thing you have is analytics that tells you and tries to determine who this particular user is, so that you can personalize things according to that user. But then having these add-on innovations, I think, just enhances the experience that helps someone, decide whether they want to purchase from you or not. All of this, and I think a lot more, is already in works. There's a lot more uh, things that are being done, but I guess each one of them have their adoption rate, and going mainstream with a lot of them will certainly take effort and time.
Got it. Thank you, Moise. I'm only going to go back to the thing that you told me initially, which is the players that are already here are going to ace it, but then the ones that who are just on the game, on the online platform, are in their first gear. So, however we see it, it looks like there is so much scope for players to come online, and the innovation in terms of technology is just perpetually increasing. So, if you haven't yet come online, now is the best time. And if you have already come online, now is the best time to start exploring all the tools that will help you completely online and ace the game. Thank you so much for your time, Moiz. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Vanity. It was absolutely amazing, and looking forward to hearing more from Zoho and the innovations of Zoho as well.
Thank you. Looking forward to the same. Bye-bye.
Bye.